I'm going to take off on a tangent here for just a couple of minutes. I've got a few slides I want to run through here because a hot topic right now is all of these shootings. And they call them active shooter events. And our president, you can't say he hasn't warned us about this, but I don't have any answers for you tonight. I just have questions. And I have facts. And I want to put some things out in front of you and get you thinking about what's going on here. Because in 2011, our president warned us that we were about to have some active shooter massacres. He warned us of this. Now, each one of these is an irrational act or planned by people whom the Department of Homeland Security does not know, obviously, and has no reason to think that they're going to act in a certain way or they would do something about it. So my question here is, how did Barack Obama know in 2011 that we were going to all of a sudden start having some of these types of events? So let me play this for you.
The biggest concern we have right now is not the launching of a major terrorist operation, although that risk is always there. The risk that we're especially concerned of right now is the lone wolf terrorist, somebody with a single weapon being able to carry out wide-scale massacres of the sort that we saw in Norway recently. When you've got one person who is deranged or driven by a hateful ideology, they can do a lot of damage.
And what are the odds that he would have known that this was about to happen? Because it was a year later that the Aurora shooting happened. Oh, and then what's her name?
Gabby Giffords?
Gabby Giffords, yes. So all of these events have happened since Barack Obama told us they were going to happen. I don't have any answers. I just have questions of how on earth he could have possibly known this. And so I'm just going to put these out in front of you so that you'll see that these are kind of impossible odds. I'm going to give you several of these that are just more than I can imagine being coincidental. This is an article that I'll put it on Facebook tomorrow so that you can read it yourself, and I'm drawing some of the data from this article that was that I saw last week. But the San Bernardino event was what created the impetus for this author to go and to start exploring this. He writes, regarding the San Bernardino shootings, according to NPR, on the day of the mass shooting in San Bernardino, California, the city's SWAT team was training for an active shooter situation just minutes away from the scene of the massacre. Now, this is the actual Los Angeles Times said that this lady saw this out of her window, assumed it was a drill just like all the others at her work. They have an active shooter drill every month or so. She texted to her husband, drill started, they're geared up, and right now there's rifles and everything, and she says, well, it's real. So she's been geared up to understand that they're going to have active shooter drills at the place that this actually happened. And it turns out they actually happened in the room where this actually happened. From NPR, on the day of the mass shooting in San Bernardino, California, the city SWAT team was training for an active shooter situation just minutes away from the scene of the massacre. We were just working through scenarios when the call went out. So my question as we go through this is, what are the odds? Now, for this to happen one time, okay, but this is happening virtually every time that one of these is happening. There is an active shooter drill or some kind of drill that's related to the event in question here. All right, what are the odds? This is talking about the Paris attack. It says, an eerie coincidence, last Friday morning, Paris ambulance, fire services, and hospitals had researched a scenario based on the Charlie Hebdo-style attack with more than 100 casualties from shooting. Hour later, the scenario happened for real. The wounded were distributed smoothly across at least 5 city hospitals with the emergency plan activated. So here it is. When that happened, there were people who were actively training and actively in position to deal with this. They didn't have to make out a call for people to come and deal with this. This is from Bloomberg. Hours before the terror attacks, Paris practiced for a mass shooting. Like I said, one time, okay, I can kind of see that. But this is virtually every time. Now, let's go back to 9/11, because a lot of us who've been watching this for a long time have realized that this is something that is whenever you see a call out for emergency situation like this, there are, I guarantee you, thousands and thousands of people who are searching for active shooter drill or whatever it is, because this is happening virtually every time when this is going on. All right. From the USA Today, in what the government describes as a bizarre coincidence, one U.S. intelligence agency was planning an exercise last September 11th in which an errant aircraft would crash into one of the buildings. It was just incredible coincidence that this happened to involve an aircraft crashing into our facility. As soon as the real events began, we canceled the exercise. Now, what are the odds here? The odds get worse, and I'm going to show you why. This was an interview with a FEMA operative. I say that as a way, I'm not being derogatory about him. He's one of these FEMA on the ground people. And he was asked about this situation. He's going to tell you that they flew him in to Manhattan the night before 9/11. Let's listen to what he says.
So all the efforts now are still focused as a rescue operation.
And looking at it, based on your experience, is this likely to take a month, 2 months, longer? What's your own personal estimate?
To be honest with you, we arrived on late Monday night and went into action on Tuesday morning. And not until today did we get a full opportunity to work the entire site other than the spot at Church and
9/11 was Tuesday morning. FEMA arrives Monday night. The 7/7 bombings. Everybody remembers the bombings in London back in 2005. This was the subway bombing. Well, Peter Power, former Scotland Yard official who was managing a drill that day, was being interviewed. He said, at 9:30 this morning, we were actually running an exercise for a company over 1,000 people in London based upon a simultaneous bombs going off precisely at the railway stations where it happened this morning. So I still have hairs on the back of my neck standing up right now. The host says, to get this quite straight, you were running an exercise to see how you would cope with this, and it happened while you were running the exercise? Power, precisely. It was about 9:30. We planned this for a company, and for obvious reasons, I don't want to reveal the name, but they're listening and they know it. And we had a room full of crisis managers there for the first time. We'd met, and so within 5 minutes, we made a pretty rapid decision that this was a real one, and so we went through the correct drills of activating crisis management procedures to jump from slow time to quick time. So here it is. Same thing. We're having drills at each one of these events. So what are the odds? Now, the author of this article actually goes through some mathematics and all this, and you can look at that, but whatever the odds are, they're going to be pretty high against this actually happening. He came up with the odds of 7 billion to 1 that the London bombings alone would have happened at the same time a drill was going on based upon his analysis. But let's just say it's 1 million to 1. Let's just say that's all it is. All right, well, if you live for 80 years, I did the math on this. For this to happen, and for you to count on for it to happen sometime during your life, you'd have to live 42 lives. That's at 1 million to 1 odds against it, that you'd have to live 42 normal lifetimes for this to ever happen during your life. So there's some crazy, crazy, crazy stuff going on. All right, now this is one people when we think about it. Remember the Waco fertilizer plant blowing up?
Hillary Clinton's fingerprints are all over it.
Very, very possibly. Well, I'm going to show you something about this, and then I'm going to show you that there was a drill set up at the precise time that this went off. This is in slow motion, but I want you to watch this area right over here where the cursor is. And I'll show it to you, so you're not going to miss it. But this is the fertilizer plant on fire. One frame out of this entire video. There it is. Did you see it? Did you see it coming from the left? It's going to do it again. No, come. See it? Right there, right where the cursor is. It comes in from the left. There's a big fireball that comes in from the left, right there. All right. If you didn't see it, that's it right there. That's that frame. There's a fireball that comes in from the left. And right after that one frame, the entire place blows up like an atom bomb. Now I want to show you something. There's a lot of citizen journalists out there who are taking note when they see a FEMA truck rolling near their town. They're taking note. Now this guy was 2 days ahead of the fertilizer plant blowing up, and he happened to notice that FEMA had shown up at the local hotel.
And I just happened to see at our Fairfield Marriott, we had a bunch of federal government vehicles. FEMA Mobile Command, it says survey on a couple of the trucks.
2 days later,
But these are definitely some vehicles that are used for interesting things.
yeah, he doesn't even know that this is going to happen. So he's just on the ball, and he's taking this video because this is something new in his hometown. He hadn't seen that. But it turns out that there was a drill going on at the same day that FEMA was operating in conjunction with the local hospital. North Hills Hospital and whoever that is have chosen to cancel today's emergency preparedness drill. Many of the same resources planned for the drill have already been deployed to West, it was West Texas, right outside of Waco, to help care for the victims down there. So, once again, what are the odds that this is going to happen on their own? All right, the Aurora shooting. What are the odds? Once again, this comes from the Denver Post. The tragedy played out in an Aurora movie theater Friday was ironically parallel to a classroom learning experience in the medical school in Parker the same day. One of the scenarios being used to train the students how to respond if a shooter fires at people in a movie theater. The irony is amazing, just amazing, according to the Denver Post or whoever it is speaking to again. This happens virtually every time. So when it happens again, just sit down at the computer for a few minutes, do a few searches, and see if there's not a drill going on right there. All right, remember Sandy Hook. Again, a drill. December 14th, 2012, the 3-year anniversary was just this past week, was the date. Well, there was a drill going on at that very moment. The goal of the course is to enable participants to improve their community's mitigation and emergency operations plans, specifically regarding the needs of children. You see, this drill wasn't about a theater. No, it was about that thing that happened on that day. So what are the odds? Needs of children in disasters, what it required to keep children safe in emergencies, address the unique needs of children prior to and during following disasters, the unique needs of children prior to, during, and following disasters, incorporate the unique needs of children in disasters into emergency operations plans. Everything's about children, 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 children. And that very day is the day that the shooter allegedly went into Sandy Hook. Now, where was that drill? It was 14 miles away from Newtown. This is the Newtown zip code. So they had the people there involved in a drill that was they're going to deal with the exact problem that they were going to experience. The Charleston shooting, just this past June, there was another FEMA drill going on, depicting a mass shooting event in Charleston on the 17th of June, which is the date of the Charleston shooting. Once again, the people are there who are needed to be there to control the situation and make everything good for whomever. It's every one of these. So really, I don't have any answers for you. All I have is more questions. And I would encourage people to start paying attention to these events and the circumstances surrounding these events, because we're talking about 9/11. We're talking about the London subway bombing, the Aurora Theater shooting, the Waco fertilizer plant, Sandy Hook, the Paris attack, Charleston, San Bernardino. And there is also evidence that there was a drill going on during the Boston Marathon bombing. So this is something we've got to be mindful of. And I am going to be writing a letter to Doug Collins, and I'm going to steer them to this video, and I'm going to ask them to perform a congressional investigation. Now, that's just me. I would hope that we could get people involved in a letter writing campaign like that. Say, it's come to my attention that so-and-so and so-and-so, I would appreciate it if you would push for a congressional investigation on this. Something like that. Because this is really important. If there's something behind this and the odds are so far against it that it can't not be, then we have to find out the truth.